Hi, so today I'm going to be talking to you about genital mutilation, also known as circumcision, more commonly known as circumcision. In the audience analysis, it turned out that a lot of people don't know very much about this topic. And it's something that I think people should know about, since it's not something people usually talk about. Seeing as a lot of you, when you grow up, you're probably going to have kids, and this is an important choice that a lot of people get in arguments about. Well, hold on. There we go. So, that's the subject. It turns out that in this study that was done in Australia, that 49% of parents said that they, after their child was circumcised, that they wish the doctor had given them more information. 79% said that they would not recommend it to other parents. However, 3% said that they would. So today I'm going to be talking about the what, the where, and the whys of circumcision, then the advantages, and then the disadvantages. And I'm very credible, as you can see. These are all scholarly sources, peer-reviewed, double-blind, and I had an interview with a doctor last week on campus. She's been a doctor for 20 years. Dr. Zeo. She's a great woman. So what? What is a foreskin, and who has one? Well, most people don't know about this, but it turns out everyone has one, as long as they are left intact. That includes females. It's known as a clitoral hood for women, and for men it's just the foreskin. Either way, it's basically an eyelid. It keeps the glands wet and sensitive and healthy and all that. What is the purpose? More commonly known, well, I just told you, it's for protection is the main reason that people know about. But it turns out it's actually also a hotspot for nerves, nerve endings, thousands of nerves in fact. So it comes in really handy for foreplay and sex and things like that. What is circumcision? You cut it off. Well, so who do we cut it off of and where? Well, where we do it mostly in the United States. As you can clearly see, we're in the red, which means baby circumcision is prevalent here. The purple and pink ones, tribal and medical youth circumcision in other countries. So, I mean, why did we do this? In third world nations, there's three main reasons. As a right to manhood for teenage boys, for preparation for marriage for teenage girls, and babies as a covenant with God with Muslims and Jews. And that's great, and you know, it's their prerogative. And so depending on the culture, it's done to different genders. Different genders pick on different cultures pick on different genders. In the 18th century, it was known as a cure or a reduction for hairy palms, mental illness, blindness, and retardation or intellectual disability. I kind of threw Michelle Bachman under the bus just now. And that's because they thought that, you know, it would reduce the chances that the kids would play with themselves, and they thought that masturbation caused all of these things. I took this pie graph from the 1800s. As you can see here, masturbation was 42% of the cause for blindness. It's not really from the 1800s, it's a joke. Why do we do it in 2012? Well, there's some myths going around still from scientific studies that have since been debunked by the National Association of Pediatrics. It was said to reduce HIV, HPV, and cervical cancer. Well, it does not, it turns out. There are valid reasons, though. For instance, phimosis, which is where the skin gets caught and it won't come back. So that, you know, reduces the likelihood that that'll happen in the same way that removing your teeth reduces the likelihood that you'll get cavities. It's also an excellent way of avoiding those talks, said Dr. Zeo. Because, I mean, parents don't really want to have to talk to their kid about wiping their butt, much less cleaning down there in any way, shape, or form. It's an awkward talk. So this is a way that parents can just skip that whole conversation, you know? Which is, you know, hygiene. It's good to keep clean, and if parents don't want to talk to their kid about that, well, they can just cut it off. So, it's basically a social norm now, or thought of as one, which means that parents are trying to treat locker room syndrome, which means when kids change in front of each other, you know, they don't want their kid to be the odd man out who isn't circumcised. The other pro about it is how much money it makes the medical industry. At $100 to $800 per circumcision and over $1 million done in the US, it's the most commonly performed medical procedure. So you can just imagine that there's milk in this money cow, or cash cow, and you know, look at him smiling. Money! Well, locker room syndrome is no longer a valid excuse either, because in the last 3 years before 2010, it dramatically dropped, and now it's under 30% of parents who are circumcising their children. So now if you do circumcise him and he changes in the locker room, now he's going to be the odd one out. But, however, there are a lot of risks. This is a Stanford Medicine, facts off of Stanford Medicine. Lots of words, sorry if that's too many. You don't worry about reading them all, but bleeding for everybody, infection for a lot. 1 out of every 500 children suffers from one of these. 1 out of every 500,000 suffers from death. And as you can see here, Stanford says that phimosis is one of the things it can cause, which is the only medical thing that it can legitimately treat. So to reduce the chances for it, but then it can cause it, you know. Pain threshold. In the audience analysis, it turned out that a lot of people didn't think that there could be psychological trauma caused by circumcision. These 2 studies by Taddeo A. Katz and all these people that my psychologist gave me these sources for, says that it actually lowers the pain threshold, making it hurt worse for kids for their developing years. So, yeah, it makes everything hurt worse. That could be good though. This is a video that I'd love to show you, but I only have 1 minute, and I think it's 30 seconds long. So today I've gone over the what, the where, and the whys of circumcision, the advantages and the disadvantages. The advantage, the only real advantage anymore, since phimosis causes and cancels, it's not phimosis. It really comes down to hygiene and that talk. So if you want to avoid that talk, this is a great option for you. So hopefully when that talk comes around, or when you have to make this decision, you will now be prepared for, be able to make a wise choice. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
What's up, Connor?
That was a very interesting topic. I was kind of disgusted at first because it said mutilation, and I was like, oh, I'm getting sick, and then I was very intrigued, I guess.
This was a persuasive speech like it was going to originally be. I think I would have recommended some people to leave the room if they have queasy stomachs, because it was going to be a lot more gnarly.
Why did you choose this topic?
I knew I didn't have time to go over that in the beginning, and I knew someone was going to ask me, so I just left it for questions.
What was the question? I'm sorry. Why did you choose the topic? Oh.
I left this for questions because I knew I wouldn't have time, and I knew this you would ask. But basically, oh yeah, I got in an argument with my girlfriend over it because she was like for it, and I was like, what? What? You would do that to our kid, you know, because we've been together forever, and she's like, yeah? And I was like, no. And then we kind of butted heads on it, and I was like, all right, well, I'm making this my research paper for English, and then why not make it one of my speeches, since I already did hours and hours and hours of research and interviewed a doctor, and I have another interview coming up, which should have been done by now, but I mean, yeah. Plus, I really think it's something people should talk about more often. This is kind of like a sexually awkward country that we live in. In France, this isn't something they have to talk about because they don't do it. But, you know, this is something that people should talk about.
Do they offer information, like enough information at the hospital, or do they just kind of say, do you want this or not? That's
what this Australian study I had there talked about, was that they don't provide very much. They do not talk about how it's, they don't talk about the sex nerves usually that are in there, or you know, about how many nerves. Some studies say that it's up to 60% of the feeling down there for guys or girls is in the foreskin. So they don't usually tell parents that, and they also don't go over talking about how there's been cases where they've amputated penises, or there's been cases where children have died, 2 to 3 a year, which is why England made it illegal, as well as Australia and Germany.
I know from experience, because when I had my son, they don't really tell you anything. It's not covered by insurance anymore either. You have to pay out of pocket.
Yeah, most of it used to be done by Medicaid.
Oh, so that could be a huge reason.
Yeah, they quit covering it because there's no medical
Necessity
research
for
or
I actually read
say
that.
that it's like actually needed.
Yeah.
It's more of like you said, like a cosmetic type thing or just something
Yeah.
that's normal for.
When the National Association of Pediatrics dropped saying that it was needed in like
And they
2000.
doctors really don't tell you, like they don't tell you like about, I had to do my own research and I didn't do it to my son after I read about it.
But yeah, since Medicaid stopped paying for it, a lot of people were like, wait, why? And then they, oh, well, it's not necessary. Oh, you know, and like Dr. Zao said, it's purely cosmetic now.
You know, I mean, the locker room syndrome, do you think that's changed today to where it's not that big of a deal to
I think
everybody
it's-
look alike?
It would completely depend on the region that you live in. Some places it's up to 90% that people do it, and then some places it's really low. And then I think it would kind of be like in a public school. It's kind of like a lottery thing. And you never know who the cool kid is that is or isn't. So now it's just unknown. But for sure, in 10 years, it's not going to be an issue at all. Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions for Gregory?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
What was the video on?
I wanted to show it. It was just this talk show thing where the guy asks this pediatrician about why it's done, and she just goes over it really quick. And
It's
she's
30 seconds.
Yeah.
If you want to play it, it's not part of your speech. But
The city of San Francisco is considering banning circumcision for.
Yeah, and again, you know, but that's a personal choice. And I talk to my patients as an obstetrician. I talk to my patients a lot about this. And really, there's a lot of health benefits and some risk benefits, but it's really a social procedure. So you really have to decide, do you want your son to look like you? Do you, is it a cultural thing? Is it a social thing? It's absolutely, and there's some health benefits, more for the lady than the man, but as far as decreasing STDs and passing on to, other women, and HPV, which can cause cervical cancer, so decreasing STDs and cancers, all that good stuff.
But couldn't you achieve the same effect by washing your pee-pee on a regular basis?
You absolutely could. And
So we're talking, you can have this chopped off or you can wash it. Your call.
Exactly.
It's a tough choice there, Doctor. I don't know.